to be acceptable? When is enough enough? The Bible says in verse 26 of Romans, therefore the uncircumcised man keeps the righteous requirements of the law. Will not his uncircumcision be counted as circumcision? Does not this person who has no access to the law, but is responding to the moral law written in his heart, that he begins to wake up to the realization of God and says, I want God, something's happening in my life. Ladies and gentlemen, you have often heard me say, because it happened to me, and I believe it needs to happen to people, and that is you need to have a faith crisis. You need your life. You need to be able to say, I remember when I had my faith crisis with God. And right now, and I pray for him, right now there's a man going through a faith crisis for the entire world to watch. Jordan Peterson is one of the most brilliant minds on earth today. Toronto, Canada, brilliant. He can't, listen, his classes are so popular they can't get enough people into his. It's just over the top. Jordan Peterson, philosopher, thinker, atheist. Something's happening. And he's in the midst of a faith crisis. Take a look what's going on right now.
Okay, so you can think about Christ from a psychological perspective, and my critic, this particular critic that I've been reading, said, well, that doesn't differentiate Christ much from a whole sequence of dying and resurrecting mythological gods. And of course, people have made that claim in comparative religion. Joseph Campbell did that, and Jung to a lesser degree, I would say, but Campbell did that. But the difference, and C.S. Lewis pointed this out as well, the difference between those mythological gods and Christ was that there's a representation of, there's a historical representation of his,
watch what happens.
Of his existence
He's
as well.
thinking.
Now you can debate whether or not that's genuine. You can debate about whether or not he actually lived and whether there's credible objective evidence for that, but it doesn't matter in some sense because this, well, it does, but there's a sense in which it doesn't matter because there's still a historical story. And so what you have in the figure of Christ is an actual person who actually lived plus a myth. And in some sense, Christ is the union of those two things. The problem is I probably believe that, but I don't know. I'm amazed at my own belief and I don't understand it. Because listen, I've seen.
It's happening to him.
Sometimes the objective world.
Listen.
And the narrative world touch. You know, that's Jungian synchronicity. Yeah. And I've seen that many times in my own life. And so in some sense, I believe it's undeniable. You know, we have a narrative sense of the world. For me, that's been the world of morality. That's the world that tells us how to act. It's real. Like, we treat it like it's real. It's not the objective world. But the narrative and the objective world touch. And the ultimate example of that, in principle, is supposed to be Christ. But I don't know what to, that seems to me oddly plausible. Yeah. But I still don't know what to make of it. It's too, partly because it's too terrifying a reality to fully believe. I don't even know what would happen to you if you fully believed it.
If you believed in the story of Christ, or if you believed that history and let's say the narrative make meet, let's
both,
say.
I think you, because when you believe that, you buy both those stories. You believe that the narrative and the objective can actually touch.
Did you hear that? That's Romans 2. That's what we're talking about. He's one of the greatest thinkers in the world today, having a faith crisis. He can't reconcile the part of the sin and the message of Christ, but the world has got evil and all of these things. If you've ever listened to his podcast, if you've ever watched him, 5 years ago, you never would have gotten that out of him. It's amazing. It's awesome. Genesis 15, verse 6 says, and Abraham